It's very interesting.
So you better keep smiling.
Sherry. I'm part of the winner zone.
Hey,
Aren't you glad we're back?
we are. Of course, we're so blessed to be back, and it's always fun.
And look at Shireen's new hairdo.
But it's the same, James.
I give you ang pao lah ringgit na.
Bagi satu ring, $1 don't want, $50 can. $100 better.
So hello everyone. I am actually being live from a client's place. So that's why everything is orange. So you might hear some external sounds. I hope doesn't interfere. But anyway, welcome back to another episode of HR Intervention Season 2. We're so excited to have all of you here. This is a live show and we encourage engagement. So feel free to comment and chat with us in the comment section. Where you're tuning in from. Are you tuning in using LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or whichever one lah? Yeah. So we have today Vivian and Chamijan, our usual guest. Fuad, hi. What's everyone having for lunch today? And even our special guest is a guest.
I know. Isn't that fabulous?
Anyway,
He's everywhere. He's here and there.
we won't tell who he is. But anyway, before we chat further, here's a little bit about our show. HR Intervention, or commonly known as HRTV, is an online talk show. I nearly choked on my biscuit. Sorry. Online talk show brought to you by Compass Mind Asia, a well-known corporate training provider company that helps organizations grow exponentially through their award-winning and proven corporate training programs.
I think you can be a DJ already with your sexy voice.
Hello, I do MC, okay? Anyway, go ahead.
Hi, Jocelyn. Hi, Clarice.
Hi, Melvin.
Melvin is logged in from LinkedIn. Melvin, hello. Hi, Adrina. So we can see some are logged in from LinkedIn, some from YouTube, and some from Facebook. Well, guys, in this show, if you're first time tuning in, we interview HR experts about everything related to HR and career. So we have had about 20 amazing episodes, really huge topics during our season here. And this season we've covered about things like diversity and inclusion, team effectiveness to drive culture, so many more titles. So do watch the first episodes on my YouTube channel, which is Shireen Kelly. Our team will put it out in the clicker below, and you can go at your own time, at your own convenience, and go and watch all the videos because the speakers have been wonderful. Don't forget to subscribe as you can watch the replay of all our episodes in case you're unable to make the future ones, which happen every alternate week. And we go live every alternate weeks at 1 p.m. Anyway, if you're still wondering about our show, basically this show is for everyone and anyone who's working, who's out there working, whether you're a C level, a manager, an executive, a non-executive, or especially if you're a HR. This show is definitely for you.
And aren't you glad you're here today?
Oh, I am. Hi, Suzanne. Our new guest.
Suzanne Road.
Hmm. My good friend. My good friend.
So we'd love to see who's watching, as we've had audiences from all parts of Malaysia and even around the world as well. So please comment away and let us know who you are and where you're from. In fact, one of our regular guests, Cheryl, just was seated next to me because we're in the same place. She came, hey, I'm one of your guests. It's nice to be, it's nice to be around people, you know. And I think I'm gonna be like showing some people says, hey, we've got live audience. Take a hike,
Okay,
Oprah.
behave yourself, James. Focus on the show.
And before we dive further into today's topic, for those of you who don't know me, I'm James Assi, Director of Talent. Boring.
And I'm Shereen Kelly, the Managing Director of Compass Mind Asia. And this is HR Intervention Season 2, Episode 3. Oh, welcome back. That was fast. Hey,
That was
hi.
loud. That was super
Sorry
loud.
to our
I
previous
forgot.
guest. Yeah,
I forgot I had my earphones on loud. So when the music came on, I was like,
almost blown away. Hi,
Mania
Charlene. So
Contreras.
nice
Who
to
is
have you
that?
here. James, remember Charlene? Charlene was in our season 1.
Yes,
Yay,
of
so nice to have her
course.
here. Hi, Maya. Maya is also here with us. Maya, why don't you guys comment where are you tuning in from? Which part of the world? Because we've got people from various parts of the world who joined us before. So, well, we would like to again welcome everyone, and to those who have joined us, comment below. Like I say, where are you tuning in from? Which part of the world? Whether you're having lunch, breakfast, dinner, whether I should tell you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, I don't know. But let us know.
I'm having biscuits.
Yay. Anyway, the COVID cases all around the world, and
Yes.
it's really rising, and most people are back to work from home. So comment away if you're working from home or from office, or you have a hybrid, or you just decided not to work anymore. Let us know. It'd be nice to know.
Like Shireen, she doesn't work. She is freelance.
Yeah, I don't work a day of my life. You are right, James, because what I do is what I love. So
Okay,
it's
enough
play
about us.
every day.
Enough about us. Let's keep. Let's not keep our guests waiting. I mean, normally I'm in early and we have all this banter, but today I was a bit late because I am actually working. Our guest for today is a 25-year-old, not 25-year-old, but a 25-year-old veteran of the corporate world in various industries. He started as an entry-level bank employee and rose to become, can you imagine, the CEO of a federal agency, developing grassroots innovations, starting up a number of companies in IT and education along the way. A passionate advocate of marginalized groups everywhere. This person's name is none other than Aziph, who has volunteered for and sat on boards on several non-profits in the areas of gender equality, special needs students, entrepreneurship, development, and religious tolerance. His current position as the head of culture and engagement at a leading telecommunication group has called on his experience in all these fields. in particular his ability to tell a meaningful and memorable story. I like this man because I love stories. When you tell stories to a crowd, you have them eating off your hands.
True.
So it's led him to be invited to deliver keynotes in more than 15 countries, more countries than I've ever been to.
Poor thing. So, without further ado, please welcome our 25-year-old head of culture
Veteran,
transformation
veteran.
employee engagement, someone we all know because he's so famous on LinkedIn, Aziph Mustapha.
Hello, hello.
Hi,
Thanks for
Aziph.
that wonderful introduction, James, especially since I wrote it. So you read it very well.
Yeah, like an MC. He does it like an MC.
You know me, right?
I'm so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Sharon, for inviting me. And thanks, James, for having me on the show.
Thanks so
It's
much for agreeing to be on our show today, Azil. And we are honored to have you. How are you doing today anyway? All good?
I'm good. I'm great. I am here in my office in PJ. So we're
it
located
looks
in.
it looks like a classroom somewhere. Are you teaching
This is one of the
kindergarten?
hangout rooms. It's called the garage, so we can chill and hang out and brainstorm here.
Yeah, it looks like a very nice, cozy place.
Thank
So
you. It is.
usually after we've like James introduced a little bit about you, we usually our guest usually likes to know more about our audience likes to know more about the guest.
Mm.
So if you can let us know a little bit more about your maybe your casual self, where you from, your hobbies, any skeletons in the closet.
Ah, ooh. All right.
Those
Thanks,
those
Sherry.
that those that you probably bought from all those 15 countries that you traveled to.
Well, wow, no ghost today. But thanks so much for inviting me again and allowing me this opportunity. I mean, it's been great, especially since meeting people like you guys just from LinkedIn. And I've not been active on LinkedIn for that long. Maybe coming up to 2 years now. But before that, as many of people know, we've been on LinkedIn all this while. At least 12 years, I think, for me was my first post, but then didn't do anything about it until about 2 years ago. But I've met so many cool people. I was saying before we went live that lately I've been meeting quite a few people on the streets and just bumping into people who've read my posts and have commented. And many people said hi in the comments below. So hey everyone, nice to see you guys. But it's been wonderful.
How do they recognize you with a mask?
It's the orange beard. It matches your background, so that's the thing lah. It's orange. So
Yeah,
yeah, I have 5 kids. Only one kid at home right now. We have 3 in college. One is working, and the youngest is at home. 7 cats, and a lot of other things going on.
yeah, that's an exciting family.
Yeah.
I see your wife as part of your TikTok too, so that's quite exciting.
Yeah, poor woman lah. She's been put through so much,
Ah,
and I make fun of her all the time and kasihan dia. But anyway,
but that's the best part about a relationship, isn't it? It's like being best friends forever.
exactly.
Yeah.
7 cats. Oh my god. So when you call the name of one of your child, does the cat come or the child comes?
That's it's always a challenge, and they're all named. They all have Matsale names. Is the issue? And my mother-in-law, who lives with us, mainly takes care of them and has renamed them. So Cinnamon is Seman. So they all have kampong names lah. They all have Matsale names and kampong names, which is cool.
So cute. Cinnamon.
Cinnamon.
That's a nice one. Now I just got hungry thinking of cinnamon. Sri Lankan cinnamon. Okay, that's good. You want to share a little bit about your hobbies, as if?
Lately, I've always been like a DIY guy, but I've been more serious into it lately. So we've actually built a shed quite large behind my house. Biggest project I've ever done. It was crazy. no plans, nothing. Chonteng here, measure here, and just cut some pieces of metal and put up. So it's actually standing now, which totally surprises me. So we use it as
Don't ever invite me and show you the work. Eh?
so it's actually providing shelter for some of my tools and the cats. So that has been cool. I play basketball, but I haven't been playing for a while. Some of you have mentioned that I've been in the hospital. I operated on my shoulder. Both shoulders are shot, so no more basketball for me for the time being. And into kind of running right now. I've been doing a bit of running, so that's always fun.
Yeah, I always notice your nice sceneries after you finish a run in the morning. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the thing about social media, right, Shireen? You always see the nice places, but you don't see
The
the
blood and
ugly
sweat.
places you have to go through to get to those nice places.
that's so true. But that's the motivation also. The guy has done it. He's gone through so much. That's where he ended up, the nice place. And you go, oh no, I think I need to take that challenge too. I'll do it
Yeah,
tomorrow, and then the tomorrow never comes anyway. So let's get back to the session. So guys, culture, why are we bringing this topic again today? Because it is the lifeblood of a society. Expressed in many ways, we tell our stories, celebrate, entertain ourselves, and imagine the future. But how about work culture, right? At the workplace, work culture is a collection of attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that make up our. James, I'm very distracted with your surrounding.
Just allow me a few minutes.
Okay, well, just enjoying the laughter at the back. So, work culture is about attitude, belief, and behavior that makes up the regular atmosphere in a work environment. I'm sure when you have work environments like that, where there's laughter at the back, everyone has a healthier work environment and they are much happier. So, any healthy workplace culture align employees' behavior and company policies with the overall goals of the company, which also consider the well-being of individuals.
for sure.
Wow,
So,
that's nice.
So just to show you my audience,
wow.
guys, say hi, say hi.
Nice.
So yeah, live audience. Yeah,
And it's
so
lunchtime for them too.
yes, it smells good. And all I'm having is biscuit cherry.
Yeah, okay. Never mind, I'll send you pizza.
Anyway, you know what? The COVID-19 pandemic has had a tremendous effect, on workplace culture. Global lockdown, travel bans have appended assumptions about the nature of work and corporate interactions. People have discovered that they don't have to be in an office like this, which is like either orange or you blend in, your face is orange or your beard is orange. Okay, they discovered that they don't have to be in an office, that they can get most things done remotely, which I like because I like my shorts and my t-shirts. As they adjust to operating during a pandemic and prepare for the recovery, organizational leaders need to consider which culture changes they want to retain and which they must counteract. So you have suddenly you've been thrown into the deep end, right? You have got all these changes. So as a leader, right, what culture do we keep? What culture do we throw out? What culture do we continue with? You know,
Mm,
so that's why we are carrying on the topic from the previous session, right?
that's
how
right.
how do we continue to grow an organization as well as the culture, etc.
One very important one. As if you see, we've taken the stage too long away from you, so now it's all on you. So I'm going to ask you your first question. Since you really live, eat, and breathe culture, right, Azif? Can you explain to us what does work culture really mean to you, and how would you describe the work culture in Celcom itself?
Okay,
Now
I'll
we
take the
know where
first.
he's working at.
Um, so yeah, I'll take the first part first. What is culture? And Usually I tell a short story. So to our audience, imagine you walk into a five-star hotel lobby, right? Beautiful lobby. Right in the corner of your eye, you see a group of people having fun happening lah. So, normal, you want to see what's going on. You also got kepochi a bit. So you go see and see what's going on here, right? So there's a man in front of a coffee kiosk entertaining people, right? People are asking, they're joking, they're having fun. And you are drawn to this person and you stand in line even though you don't drink coffee. You stand in line, you say, please take my money because I want to buy some expensive coffee for you because everybody's having so much fun. And so when you get to the front of the line and you're talking to this man and he notices you're holding a book, he goes, "Oh, Simon Sinek, I read his book as well." So he's like a great conversationalist, right? So he knows what to say exactly the right time. Everybody loves him. And in your mind, you're like, if this person works in my company, man, if I had 10 of these guys, we would rule the world because this guy is just such a wonderful people person. So then you ask him, his name's Greg. He says, "Greg, are you always on like this? Is this you? Is this the real you?" And James says, "Well, you know what? Where I work now in this hotel, if you would just stand and watch me, in a few minutes, a few of my bosses will come by and they're not going to ask how much sales I made. They're not going to ask, what rules I've broken or not. They're going to ask me how I am and how they can help me. And all of my bosses are like this. And my bosses are very clear about their expectations on me. And they are very caring about me and my family. They know my kids' names. And my bosses are just like this. So I'm like, Greg, so you're like this because of the way you're treated? He said, absolutely. And Greg said, I'm going to say something that will blow your mind because after my shift ends in this hotel, I walk across the road a few blocks and I work for another hotel. And in that hotel, I am totally opposite. I keep my head down. Nobody really knows my name. I never say anything. I never propose anything, of course, and I never do anything outside of my job scope. And he says, because the bosses there, all they care about is if I follow the rules, if my shoes are shined, if I am late, how much sales I make. So I have learned in that hotel not to stick my neck out. But in this hotel, I can be myself and I love it and I will give them 110% of my effort. And so that, ladies and gentlemen, is what culture is all about. Is how you treat somebody so that they can be themselves and they can be authentic and they want to work hard for you, not, try and bring them down and beat them up and expect them to work hard for you. So that, in a nutshell, is how I view culture.
You know what? The culture here, you can hear, right? It's happening. Just lunchtime is happening. It's an open concept. People are laughing, people are enjoying themselves, etc., etc. But apart from what you guys are practicing at Celcom, what would you say are some of the best type of work culture? Is this a person who's going to stand by the corner and yada yada like Simon Sinek and everybody gathers around him? Where the bosses don't care, they join in the banter as well, or is it like get back to your work sort of thing? So, what's the best type of work culture?
Well, obviously, even based on my little story just now, it's about being authentic and letting people do their best. Because I truly believe that everyone wants to do their best. Nobody is coming to work. Nobody got a job and comes to work solely for the reason of swindling their employer. They just want to go and do nothing. People intrinsically want to add value and they want to achieve something and they want to succeed. And I think the company's role is really to provide that avenue for them to succeed. And, there may be a few rotten apples, but generally, human beings are decent and we treat them like adults and they will act like adults. And you treat them like kids, they'll act like kids and they'll start stealing things. And, one of the things I always talk about and I champion is don't worry so much about absenteeism. You should worry about presenteeism. People who come and do nothing. People who come and just surf the internet all day long. Because those people are much more damaging to your organization and is a much bigger burden. And people don't really, even when they're working at home, right? We've been working at home for over 2 years now. Well, just about 2 years. And we have our results came out yesterday. It's our holding company, Axiata's results came out, and we did really, really well. So, what's the lesson, right? The lesson is you let people work from wherever, they will perform and they will do the best that they can with the constraints that they have. And as we have proven, we actually have done better than we have when everybody was in the office pre pandemic.
Hmm. Because you really give them the avenue to be themselves. So yeah, they
Right.
love it. Like Charlene says, love that example. So true. I've been at both ends of the spectrum, and it's exactly like how you described it. In fact, as if I've heard you tell this story before on another platform too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such a
It's my
powerful story
favorite.
to tuck in there.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sticks. It helps people to understand it much better. But as a culture practitioner, I'm sure your other HR practitioners out there feel this as well. Our job really is sometimes really as a translator, right? We need to translate what we do because we're doing sometimes touchy feely things. I mean, of course, there are hardcore HR stuff that needs to be done that is science based, but many of what we do is what others can consider, or this is soft, this is not the real hard stuff, right? So we need to translate the stuff that we do into more business sense. So I find that a lot of my work on a day-to-day basis is really being that interface between the stuff that needs to be done and the business side of it, the chiefs, the CXOs, who may understand the dollars and cents much better. So I need to translate this stuff into dollars and cents so it makes sense for them, so that they can understand and support. So I feel that my job has become that now. Is really transversing both sides of the story. I understand the business side because I've been there, but I also know that people need to be treated certain ways, and some things need to be invested in for your people that may not bring in ROI in that traditional sense, but is better for the organization in the long run.
It's like when
Absolutely.
you when you allow someone to be themselves, the genuine person that they are, whether you know hantu ke, angel ke, you need both, right, to make things work. When people are comfortable in their own skin, that's when they get a lot of things done, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Right.
true. So Azif, what are some of the major challenges that you guys have faced before in enforcing and applying culture at your organization?
Um, well, I am not that long here in Celcom. I've just celebrated my third year here, so it's been 3 years. One, and people asking me, so how did you get the success you have? Really, I inherited a really good boss. So Datuk Idham Nawawi came in not long before me. So he's about 3.5 years here. So he brought about a lot of changes. And one of the first things we worked together on was how do we communicate this new culture that we want to bring into Celcom in a succinct way that people can understand. So he introduced what he calls the compass. And it's very simple. There's four core values. There's a purpose and there's a mission. And we spend a lot of time speaking to everyone in the organization. And I spend a lot of time after that going around the country and meeting. I think my team and I met almost everyone. It was like 98% of all employees we have met face to face. It was obviously pre-COVID lah. So we traveled a lot and we built this understanding of what it is, what this culture is all about. So it made life so much easier. And I think that's one of the keys of success is to actually spend time getting to know your people. As soon as I joined, my boss, the CHRO, said, you need to know who you're serving. You need to know who your customers are. And in my sense, my customers are the employees of Celcom. So I traveled personally to like these remote towns where Celcom has blue cubes and where we have regional offices in Sabah, Sarawak, everywhere. And that I think allowed me to understand better and also allowed the people to understand me. So they knew where I was coming from. And those sessions generally were unscripted. We just had the idea of going and meeting people and listening to them. So I sat down in the middle of a room like this. Everybody sat around me. I said, "Tell me what's going on. How can I help you? I'm serving you. You are my customer. How can I make your life better as an employee of Celcom?" So that's all I did for about a year, and I just went round and round and talked to everyone.
Wow, so nice. I like when you say you went there with unscripted and told them, okay, I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
So that's why we have 2 years, and not many people do that. More people like to talk than to listen.
Just like us here, right? Ours is totally unscripted.
Mm.
Right.
Yep. So let's have a let's have a question for the audiences instead. What's your favorite
Right.
part about company culture? Let's hear from our audience. Charlene has been quite uh, participative. In fact, she
Yes.
said,
Hi, Charlene.
"Yay!" She said just yesterday she made a LinkedIn post on how to combat toxic culture. My God, the writing is so small. It's so unhealthy. We play into it. Yeah, toxic
For sure.
culture, I feel, is something like cancer. It just spreads in the organization if you don't curb it in the bud.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of difficult for organizations to do that because sometimes it's like gray area lah, because there's no somebody's not breaking the rules, they're not going against any guidelines, they're not, but we understand that they're toxic. So one of the ways we do that is measure how people rate themselves. It's self-rating in your performance management on the four culture values that we have. So people
Mm.
rate whether they are customer first, whether they are a team player, whether they're looking at these four values. So then that allows us to have a conversation. So between their supervisor and themselves, they have this open conversation about maybe you haven't been exhibiting this team player aspect because they're toxic,
Mm.
right? But now you have an avenue and in to talk about it. But if you didn't have that framework, it's hard to go to somebody and say, "Hey, don't be so toxic lah." How do you say that, right? Where did it come from? Then they'll ask you, why are you saying I'm toxic? But if you're backbiting and you're complaining behind everyone's back, and you need an avenue, you need an in to open that conversation up and say,
Mm.
okay, this is why I'm bringing this up because our values state this, and these are the behaviors that we're expected to exhibit in this organization, and what you're doing is not quite up there, and for that I'm rating you this way. So then next year they can say, okay, my rating, I need to bring this up lah, so I cannot be doing all of these negative things anymore. So it just allows people, because people are so different, right? Everyone is an
Mm.
individual, and the
Mm.
levels of understanding of this also varies greatly. So one key thing is to make it as simple as possible, as few things as possible to remember, and you say you do this one, two, three, four things. That's it. That's part of our culture.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, I've been in companies that like festered with all these different types of toxins that as soon as you enter this office, you can smell. You're choking, although it's not there, but in your mind, it's like, oh my god, what am I doing here? Some people are so happy with this environment. Some people, they just roll with it. Well, I don't care. They can put on their blinkers and they just come into work and they can't be bothered. But others are so, you know, affected by it. Like what Charlene again says. She
Mm.
says she loves the example. It's so true that she's been on both ends of the
Yeah.
spectrum, and it's exactly like how you've described it.
Mm.
Yep. Yep. So, one of the ways people define culture is tone from the top, right? And if the top layer doesn't do anything when they spot these toxins in the organization, then that is a clear message to others that this is okay. It's okay to behave like this because, listen, the chief didn't say anything. He saw it, but nothing happened. So one of the conversations I have had to had, and obviously you need to learn how to manage upwards, right? Because I'm not a C level, I'm not a chief, but I need to advise the C level and say, hey, listen, if you let this pass, if you let this slide, you're just gonna ruin the culture. All of the work that we've been doing for the past 12 months, you're gonna ruin it by simply not doing anything. So you must take action every time you see there's something that goes against our culture. You need to be loud about it. You need to be vocal. You need to be visible. And these are the roles that I had to learn to play. Is more of a consultative, uh, business partner kind of role, right? We need to go at a peer level, even though they're big bosses. You need to come in as a peer and say, listen, I need to advise you that this thing cannot happen anymore. You cannot let this slide, and you need to take action. So, you kind of have to build your credibility to get there, but you need to learn how to do it. So, to the audience, I think learning how to manage upwards is critical in your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, this entire place is quiet. I was like, where did everybody go?
Lunch is over.
So anyway, we've now moved from the pandemic to the endemic phase, right? After more than 2 years of probably the biggest pandemic in the world, was the company culture impacted? How was your company culture impacted, and how did the work culture change post pandemic? Can you see the
Wow.
difference?
Yeah, that's a good one. It struck right as we were rolling out this new culture, this transformation that we're going to do. And before the government announced work from home, close shutdowns, right? We had already told all of our employees to work from home
Mm,
a few days before that, because we at that point were run by the BCM. It was no longer the normal hierarchy. Now
mm,
the CEO said the BCM is running the show, and he chairs the BCM every morning. And I was one of the invited people to come into the BCM to have these conversations every day. So one of the decisions was send everyone home, keep people safe first. What other thing that I always mentioned and was very helpful for culture building was that the CEO, every time decisions were made by the BCM, he would ask, is this in line with our purpose? And is this in line with our culture or not? So he played my
mm,
role, basically. He is the chief culture officer. So he would play that role and push this and really prod and make people think, betul lah, did I do something according to the culture or not? Or is this just for like short-term profit? And one real example that I've always given, and I'll give you right now, is that the government mandated that all telcos provide 1 GB of data, right, to all subscribers.
mm,
All of you get it. So everybody who has data will get 1 free GB from the telcos. Now, how telcos do it vary lah. It's up to them, kan? MCMC just says do this, and we have to do it. So typically, telcos being businesses would ask people to fill out a form, tick here, make sure do you want the GB or not. But us having a purpose of advancing our societies, that's our purpose statement. 3 words only, advancing our societies. So CEO would say, is this in line with advancing our societies? Yes, we want people to receive data. So why don't we make
mm,
it as easy as possible for people? Don't have them jump through hoops. Don't make them
mm,
fill out any sort of forms. Give it to them proactively and communicate to them saying, listen, here's your free GB, and we're going to use this free GB first before you even touch the one that you paid for. And so because we did this consistently throughout from the beginning of the pandemic, when a consultancy, large consultancy, ran a survey of all telcos on how their telco treated subscribers during the pandemic, we came out heads and shoulders above our competition. People strongly felt that we cared about them. People strongly felt that we really are on their side. So I think the stuff that we do in culture contributed to it. I'm not saying I was totally responsible, but the culture advantage is what we're talking about today. That was an advantage. That was definitely something that the market felt.
mm.
Wow, that's great because yeah, I would be very happy just to be given instead of being asked to fill up forms. You see, and that brings us. Your answer was more on to the customers. Joycelyn asked about the difference between HR practices pre and post pandemic in the
Right.
HR area. Yeah.
There's still the discussion lah, kan? Even in our company and in many companies, do people need to come back to work? Are we happy with remote working, or since we have a 31-story building here, do we want people to come back and fill the building? So this is still a debate. It's still ongoing. In terms of HR practices, not much has really changed. We had been preparing for digital workforce for a few years already, and obviously the pandemic accelerated it lah. We had already, all the tools were in place. Everybody had Microsoft Teams. Everybody had remote access. Everybody has a VPN, but it wasn't really used until the
Mm.
pandemic that forced everyone to work from home. How it changed how I engage with people, because I told you the story of me going to every single state in the country and every
Mm.
small town to meet up with people. It actually made my life easier, because in this situation that we are in now, we're on a virtual platform. I
Mm.
actually can see you guys better. I can actually look into your eyes now. But if I were in a room with 50 people, the person on the third row already, I cannot see his face. And somebody in the back row is sleeping, I wouldn't even know. But in a virtual situation, I can have a lot more intimate sessions, which I still do. We call it kita jaga kita, and we have it like all the time. So I can have small groups of 10, 15 people, and I put that into my schedule and regularly have these conversations with people, and it's ongoing. So it's made my life better. I don't have to leave my family. I don't have to buy a plane ticket and sleep in hotel rooms. Some of them are haunted. We have a lot of stories about that. But I don't
That's
live in a
that's a
city
story for
anymore.
another day. That would be interesting.
Yeah, probably Shireen's been there and she left the ghost of the past there. So.
Yeah, I'll take it, James. Thanks.
But it's so
So
true.
yeah,
It's so true. Yeah.
it didn't change fundamentally how we our HR practices. We obviously had to adapt in terms of remote working. We're now exploring remote offices to allow people who say that it's hard to work from home because they don't have the tools, they don't have the chairs, the desks, and we are opening up more and more satellite offices in areas where there are clusters of employees, so that they can go to the satellite office and work from there. So really just to make life easier for them, and they can at least get away from the screaming kids and cats at home for first, and work in a proper office environment. But they don't have to come to
Yeah,
the HQ, for example.
I like it, especially that you guys are so big and stationed everywhere. So satellite offices are just the best idea ever for those who can't really work from home. Guys, if you all agree with satellite offices, come give us
Make total
thumbs
sense.
up or give us a heart. Some
Give
love.
us a C. Give us a C for Cellcom.
Yeah, and share some love. And hi, Jiva, nice to see you here.
Can I just
I'll
say?
see.
Can I just say? Can I just intercede and say
Sure.
it's my favorite telco provider. There was a long time that I was
Woohoo!
with Telcom, and then this other competitor of yours came up with this new phone. I said, okay, la, let's just escape and buy. Oh my god, the biggest mistake I ever made. I started paying 10 times more. I'm like, what the heck? Why did I sign up 2 years of my life and spend so much money for that? And then I couldn't wait. I just waited for the time when the contract ended. I said, goodbye. I'm not going to say it, but goodbye. Good riddance. And I came back to South Africa.
Welcome back.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you. Thank you.
Charlene
Wow,
has,
lots of great stuff in the comments.
yeah, has work-life balance been affected by the pandemic when we are accessing 24/7? Yeah, we are really accessible 24/7. How do you
All you need,
schedule
Charlene,
your
all you need,
day?
Charlene, is a good cup of coffee and some
No, that's a
biscuits to
great
go
point,
along.
Shalin. Because obviously none of us have gone through this before, right? It's
Yeah.
all a learning experience for us, and we have had to put in guidelines. Better meeting guidelines. We had
Mm,
to put something called RITE, respect for individuals' time. So these are guidelines that HR has produced, and we actually train people on. There's an online training for this that really says lunch hours, like right now, is off limits. No meetings during lunch hours. Before 8:30, when people start work, no
Okay,
meetings.
bye.
after after 6 o'clock, where no meetings. I mean, obviously some teams work different hours, and
Mm.
there's rotation, there's the frontline people and all that. But generally we're saying respect people's rest hours, because it was just very clear that people were stressed. Bosses called for meetings at odd hours. So again, this is the things that we need to kind of train the leaders on, because they are also learning, right? They're also trying to adapt to this, and they're worried that they can't see their people, but they have targets, they have things that they need to get done, so they're also kind of jittery. I think we've settled down a bit. Everybody has gotten the groove of it, how to work from home, how to balance things out. But yeah, Charlene, we had to put out communications. We had to come up with campaigns to kind of tell people that it's not okay to call for 10 p.m. meetings. It's not okay to get people up early in the morning. I know they're in bed,
Mm.
the laptop is right next to them, but you cannot take that time away from them and their family. And
All the
that's a
weekends, all the weekends as well. Uh,
commitment.
Going into that topic now, what would you say are some of the tricks and tips, or perhaps hacks to bouncing back post pandemic in terms of practicing culture in the organization? Is there things that leaders can, hacks that leaders can uh, put into practicing? Okay, this is what we're gonna do.
Yeah, what we've tried to do is to keep the momentum going, even though we're working remotely, we're working from home. There's another conversation we had with all leaders, that they need to, set aside time for their teams outside of work. So people generally have hangout, once a week, you have a hangout with your boss, talk about whatever, talk about your kids, talk about your hobbies and all of that. Because if you didn't, it'd be so easy to shut yourself out from that connection that you built over the years with your colleagues, because you have time in the pantry, you sit around the table and you talk. But when you're working remotely, that you don't have those hours. So
Mm.
we actually had to schedule those. We had to schedule hangout hours generally. So I would host huge hangouts with everyone in the company. Anybody who can come, drop in, and we talk about anything. There's no agenda. Come and share. That has happened. We have done division by division, department by department hangouts. We made sure that the leaders run their town halls, for example, within their departments and divisions, because all of this connection building is something you need to have throughout. You cannot, just
Mm.
because you're working remotely, forget about that, and then when you come back, expect everything back to normal. That doesn't happen. So again, these are things that we have to train people at. It's not natural, it's not normal. We've never done it before. We don't know how to play games online, right? We don't know how to do it. So we have had to do it. We've come up with a live show, 1:30 p.m. once a week. Every week we're live, and we talk about everything. We had a person a few weeks ago talk about how he likes to skydive, so he showed videos of what he was doing. People love
Wow.
painting, all of these hobby stuff we talk about. Of course, product launches we talk about as well, but we have a session where just these we show people as they are, as human beings, not as an
Yeah,
employee. I think
yeah,
that's
yeah.
very, very critical.
I
Yeah.
think what the pandemic actually stole from a lot of people is the time where they gather for a lunch, or time where they gather making coffee and have a quick catch up. Hey, how are you doing? How's your
Exactly.
child? You know, we just went miles apart, but we were
Mm.
connected still, right? But
Yeah.
it's great. It's great that this culture is being practiced in Celcom. Yeah.
Yeah. Asif, you mentioned hangout hours, right? Do you have a time limit for hangout hours too? Or it's like as long as anyone
Yeah,
wants to stay? This is like a night session.
usually people don't want to hang out too long after hours. People, I mean, we understand people have stuff to do, and
Mm.
every time it's not. I mean, we don't expect super high participation rates. Uh, if people need to reach out and get connections, they know where to go. I'm always accessible. So those hangouts typically are very organic. Sometimes they last longer than others. Sometimes it's very quick, and we allow for that because we understand people have different needs at different
Yeah.
times. We've been
Mm.
doing, since the start of the pandemic, online wellness programs. So the first was called Fit to Fight, and then Fight to Fit, and it's like a six. I think the last one was much longer. Was 13 weeks of we had dietitians, we had personal trainers, we had psychologists, we had all of these people come up with a program for all of this time. And you measure yourself, you do a mental assessment when you start, and then in the middle and at the end, you weigh yourself in the beginning, and because you try and follow these healthy eating. So
Yeah.
it's a holistic way of how do you care for yourself, and
Mm.
that's open to every single employee. Obviously, not everyone signed up, but those who did sign up really saw the benefit of it. It was a really fun time because 2-3 times a week we'd have exercise sessions together on Teams, and it just brought a lot of people closer together because it was open nationwide, and we had people from Sabah, we had people from Johor, and all of us are in different teams because we put them into cross-functional teams. And they were kind of competed against each other. The challenges. So there's a diet challenge, there's an exercise challenge, there's a reading challenge. So we just tried to make it as interesting as possible for people during this time.
Mm.
I totally agree with you because I've mentioned this in our previous episodes before. When the pandemic happened, when the lockdown happened, everybody was complaining about, oh, I'm getting so fat. My neighbor is giving me food. The other neighbor is giving me food. Everybody's talking about food, food, food. I'm putting on so much weight. But that was when I started losing weight. You know,
Excellent.
I'd never before have I ever seen myself as handsome as I am now.
I guess we had that pause time where we needed to reflect on ourselves also. It's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Of course.
career, health, mental wellness, self care in every area, family, and
Yeah.
everything
For
else.
sure.
the
I
goal
mean,
the goal that you've been putting aside because you are so busy working. I want to lose it. I want to lose it, but I got no time. I got no time. I got no time. I'm eating at my at my desk. Suddenly the pandemic happens, and oh, okay, I don't have a desk.
in your home, yeah.
Yeah.
And of course there's people are in different stages of their lives, and I think one of the biggest groups that had issues were single people because they're living at home alone. Imagine inside a condominium somewhere without anyone else in the house. And so those really needed support, and we provided support in terms of ability to reach out to
Where were you when I needed you? Where were
The
you?
man in the house.
Yeah, it's tough, I know. So those are some of the things we did. But people found that having programs like that, some people thought it was cheesy lah, ala malas lah nak join. But just having that ability to, okay, I want to join. I want to go 6 weeks and I want to go 12 weeks into this program and see what happens was really, really beneficial. And it allowed people to see that actually boleh lah, because people have this excuse, mana ada masa nak exercise, we don't have time to do this, how can you eat healthy in Malaysia? So by having dietitians and coaches to show them how, it made it easier for them.
I mean, as someone who's experienced in this field, right? I'm sure you've heard of organizations with toxic work culture. What's your advice to people working in these organizations on how they can handle it now that reality has given you a B slap, right, and got you awake? How can you get people who are so lost in this toxic culture to just get out of it, handle it, you know how can we get organizations to manage it, and whatever toxic stuff you want to get rid of it now?
Well, the US has always been kind of like a bellwether, right? Things happen there first before they come here.
Mhm.
And so many people have said, oh, great resignation is not going to happen in Malaysia. That's an American centric thing. People are
Mhm.
quitting from their jobs because they're Americans, they do that. But we know that we have a lag. So a couple of years later, suddenly our people will think the same way. They say, hey, why the heck am I stuck in this job that hates me? I answer to a boss that wants to kill me. My hours kill me already. Why are you staying? So the 4.5 million people in the States, they said, this is enough. I'm done with
Mm.
this. I'm resigning. So either they resign to do their own thing or they join more healthier organizations. But people will wake up and realize that. And leaders will wake up to realize that if they allow toxic culture to happen in the organizations will not exist anymore because nobody wants to work there.
Yeah.
People need to understand that. So I totally believe that next year, perhaps, great resignation will happen here. People will say enough is enough. I've tasted what it's like to work from home. I delivered. I could manage my time. I'm staying with next to my son. I love it. Why would I travel 2 hours a day fighting the jam to go to a place that doesn't care for me, doesn't support for me, just for a paycheck? So I think people are
Yeah.
willing to pay cuts in order to
And
have a
that
better quality of life.
and that there's another one that's going to come, which is the great burnout. Those people who have to do work, there comes the great burnout. So leaders
Of
have to
course.
be ready for this great burnout. Those who are left in the office, they're going to be burnout because they're taking on all the work of those people who have left, right?
For sure. For
So
sure.
Charlene's asked a good question. How do we change a more traditional culture into a modern one, especially with the new generation entering the workforce? The ones
Yeah,
that you only see, after mask all covered, just the forehead.
yeah. I mean, that's a tough one. This multi-generational thinking. We actually were talking about what are the key competencies we need to survive and thrive in the future. This is among a leadership retreat we recently had, and multi-generational skills came out towards the top, right? Because we understood that as different generations join, that it's totally different way to think. Um, but interestingly enough, Charlene, that the more modern way of doing things actually is looking back into the more traditional. It's more about caring for people, right? We all saw the Gartner report about it's more human now. We need to look at employees not as employees but as human beings, and we need to
Yeah.
care about their needs. So this is very, very traditional, especially for us in the Asian culture. It's very traditional for us to care about human beings first, and make sure that they have what they need. They're supported not just physically, not just financially, but they're supported as a human being. And more leaders are understanding that. And even in our organization, we're training people for that as well. How to be more empathetic, how to
Mm,
understand people more. And these times, I think it's even more critical for that because I read a post recently. They said, I love it when our competitors announce coming back to work programs because as soon as I see that, I will send my recruiters over because easily I can get 10, 15 high quality hires, just because of that. Because my company is work from home. And you just go and you can cherry pick the
mm,
best talent easily just by doing that. So if you have a very old school way of looking at things and saying everybody needs to come back and we need to
mm,
see faces, we need to see boots on the streets, that's just an old way of thinking lah.
Mm,
People, remote working is here to stay. Companies that don't embrace it may not be here to stay.
mm.
So
mm.
And they'll lose all their talents along the way.
yeah.
Azif, moving forward, what are your hopes for the organization's work culture?
Wow. Yeah. We are moving towards more of this humanistic way of looking at things. I think that's fantastic. I am, happiest I've ever been in any job I've had throughout my long career. And because I see that the leadership really truly cares. And
Mm,
that is, I think, at my age, it's about feeling that you're providing value and you are appreciated, right? Nothing, you come to a point in your life you realize that's all that matters really.
mm,
And I want to create a culture for everyone to feel that way, to feel that they're appreciated and what they're doing is meaningful, which is why I love our purpose statement that says advancing our societies.
mm.
We wake up every day not to sell SIM cards and not to sell phones, but to connect people and make sure that whoever we touch are being advanced in one way or the other. And I feel that with this meaningful work, we will attract more and more talented people, and they're going to run away from these companies that are toxic and look for more meaningful places to work. And we will be the beneficiaries of that, and we'll get more and more cool people to work for us.
Yeah, I mean, this is the trend, right? It's already there. If you have not seen it, if you are still blind to it, you'll probably wake up and go, hey, where did everyone go? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm totally surprised when we hear stories about managers who are still throwing files at people. And there's still people like that, right? There's still people who yell. There's still people who send messages in all caps and asking stupid questions. And we don't understand. I mean, of course, everybody has their own journey and they are like, but handle it lah. Yeah, you're an adult. And if you're in a leadership position, you need to handle it or you need to vacate the seat and give it to somebody who can handle it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, and now there's an emoji to reply to that. It's obscene, but I'm not gonna show it here. But anyway, this is amazing, right? Because we are the people that are going to drive the culture. We are the people that's going to, ensure that the organization's survival continues, right? Because at the end of the day, the focus is always on the business, right? Who are the right fit? Who do you bring in? Who do you take out?
Yeah.
you know what you're doing is amazing, and this should be replicated in, regardless of what organization you are in, sometimes even the government probably, but let's not play in there again. So we're approaching the end of our session for the day, so we'd like to thank the great Azif for such an amazing insightful session, and most of all, to have a serious discussion with us. I was hoping to see one of your cats running behind there, but then,
This is office, not home.
hey, bring your pet to work.
Bring your pet to work day.
Yeah. Before we end, we like to give. Would you like to give us a final word to our audience, and share with our audience your social media links? I think it was running below, like the pet behind your sofa there, Shereen, on how they can reach you in case they have any further questions on how they can build connections with you, probably get to know how you are building this amazing culture in Celcom, maybe replicate it in their own organization.
It's all about here on LinkedIn, especially. It's all about connections. So if I'm happy to connect with anyone, I'm an open. What did they used to call it? Lion, LinkedIn open networker. So I connect with everyone. So whoever sends me a connection request, I'm happy to have you in my network. As you can see, I'm very open. My link tree, I'll put it in the comments. It's linktree/Aziph Mustapha. All my socials are there: Instagram, Clubhouse, LinkedIn. I'm typically
Wow.
on LinkedIn more often than other places. But again, it's all about building a network of people who nurture and support you. And so I welcome all of your audience and all of your connections to connect with me. I'm happy to answer questions and get on a call if need be. So take care, everyone. Thank you so much for listening in today.
Thanks so much, Azif, for joining us today. So, to our audience, register now for our next episode of HRTV coming to you in 2 weeks' time on 9 March. Same time, same day. Please, please, please connect with Azif on LinkedIn because he does
Yeah.
amazing job there. I tell you, there's so much I've learned from him, and I practically can follow his life journey there too because he's there every time, every
Stalker
day.
alert! Stalker alert!
Amazing.
Stalker
We're
alert!
just
Stalker
friends, we have
alert!
connections. And if you are a HR leader and want to be our guest for the show, then drop me a PM on LinkedIn or you can always email us. And if you are HR or an L&D manager and planning to do trainings or team engagement programs for the year, well, you can drop us an email at training@compassmind.com, which is also in the clicker below.
Anyway, just for a public service announcement, the cases are rising, so remember to stay safe wherever you are, wherever you're planning to go. We'll see you guys on our next episode of HR Intervention. Serious discussions only.
Only. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.